This is wonderful. So let's see. I want to erase some of this here. We're going to go back to our production mindset pyramid. Okay? You remember this? We've got our pyramid here. Starts all the way down here at the bottom. I'm sure that there's nobody in this position right now, but this is what we call this sucking consumer. It's at the very bottom of the pyramid. You could say it's at the very bottom of our organizational chart. Those entry level by the hour. It's just bringing people in and seeing if they will be willing to be contributing workers. But unfortunately, 70% are disengaged. 70% from the Gallup poll are disengaged. That puts me, for me, that helps me understand that they are just sucking consumers. They're coming in, I'm giving them money, but they are giving me very minimal results on a daily basis. So what we want to do to begin to break out of this level, first of all, as we talked about in our first level with the worker level, we have to get to a place where we are contributing workers. We've got to become contributing workers. And then this next level here is the team builder. Another way to say team builder is a developer, okay? It's a developer, it's a team builder, it's an influencer, it's a gatherer, okay? Is what we're doing here. A person that can build relationships. And then from there, oh my gosh, from there we go to the manager level. From there we go to the leader level. And then finally we get up here to the entrepreneur. And this word just has way too many E's and U's in it. Okay, I've come to that conclusion. All right. But these are the different ways of thinking. These are the different mindsets. I call it the production mindset pyramid. So here we have the contributing worker, which has the worker level mindset, and then the team builder. Now again, one of the tragic things that I see happen all the time is I'm traveling across the country, coaching and speaking at different events. When I speak with managers, is I find that most of the time, in fact, it's very seldom, that companies will actually do this the proper way. But most of the time, what will happen is companies will take contributing workers that are doing a great job working, and they promote them to a manager. But remember, the contributing worker mindset, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So now you have put this person that thinks to get the work done, I've got to do it myself. We put them into a manager position. And now they have, as we said over here, multiple different activities that they have to be in charge of, and they're trying to do it all themselves because they haven't learned how to build trust in other people. Clay, I'm trying to delegate, but the people are stupid. They can't do it. We haven't learned how to train. We haven't learned how to develop. We haven't learned how to prepare. These are all words that we can use at the team builder. Preparing people, training people, developing people, equipping people. All these different types of things. Because again, a person that is wired mainly to be a manager, and when they have this worker mindset, they're primarily thinking, Clay, I don't have time. I don't have time to build a relationship. I don't have time to build teams. I just need people to do the work. I need people to do the work because there's too much. I've got too much. I've got to have other people do it. And again, I get it. I've been in that place before. I've lived in that place before. Man, it was really, really hard. So once again, if you are a manager that is experiencing this, Clay, I can't get people to do what I want them to do. Or if you are a worker and you're wanting to be promoted into management, this piece right here of learning how to be a team builder is vital for you. It's going to be very important for you to pick up. How do I get people to follow me? Because if you're not careful, when you get to the management level, yeah, it'll be a nice position. You may have a little bit more power. You might have a little bit more money. But as a manager, if you can't get people to do the things you want them to do, then you're going to have some real struggles. You're going to have some real problems. So what we're doing here at the team level is we're learning how to get people to do it with us. Because we're not their boss yet, okay? We're still right there, right along with them. We're still doing the work right alongside them. We're not their boss yet. But even while we're in that position, we're learning how to gather people to us. So Very common mistake, as I said, as we move to our next page in the notes. Very common mistake is to simply promote too quickly. Okay? We skip steps when we promote. You may know exactly what I'm talking about and the frustrations that can be involved with that. So this is the playing field that we're looking at. This is the playing field as you and I move from being a contributing worker and move up the ladder. This is how we do it. We expand our mindsets because, once again, it all begins with how we think about them. Remember that? If we think incorrectly, then it's going to determine our actions. It'll determine our choices. So we want to make sure that we are thinking correctly. For instance, how about this? Let me go with another example here. Let's go over here. And let's say you've probably been in this position before. And let's go all the way back to school, where one day your teacher, because I used to do this all the time as a teacher, one day your teacher has this great idea to say, class, we're going to do group projects. All right, we're going to put everybody in a group. We're going to give you a project. Some of you already know where I'm going with this. It's like, oh my gosh, this is scary. Because all of a sudden, my grade on a particular project is not just based on me, but it's based on some other people. And sometimes we can freak out. Because now here we are, we've got several different people that are now in charge of getting things done. And here we go. Have you been in this place before? Where you know that you're going to be the one working. You know you're going to do your responsibility, but you get John. You get John on your team. And it can be so frustrating. And not only Sean, but you get Julie as well. You get John and Julie on your team, and you know that John and Julie, they don't do the stuff. Their grades are low in the class. They don't ever do their work. They don't even come to class very much. And so what we have here is, I know that I'm going to do my job, but it's these other yahoos that I know they're not going to do their job. And if they do their job, catch this, if they do their job, they're not going to do it to my specifications. They're not going to do it to what I think they should be doing. And as a result, here's what we do. As a result, we do this. First of all, we get afraid that they're not going to do it. Number two, what we do, doesn't always happen in order like this, but I promise this is going to be involved. First of all, we get afraid. Next of all, if you're like me, then we get mad at them. All right? We get frustrated with them because they're not, just know they're not going to do their job. And then the third step, now we're afraid, now we're mad at them. What we do is we isolate. We isolate ourselves. We try to keep ourselves disconnected. That's going to be an important word for you later. We disconnect from them and keep them over there because we don't want to be associated. All right? We don't want them to influence our grade. We isolate from them. And then finally, what we do is we become independent. And we do the work ourselves. Have you been in this spot? You know what I'm talking about? Now, of course, there might be some of you in the group, you might want to point at those people because you probably know who they are. But there's probably some of us in the group that, I was the one that didn't really ever do anything in the group projects. That might have been you. But probably more likely, you were the one that felt like you were the one that was going to have to do everything. So what you were doing, first of all, oh no, it's going to hurt my grade. Number two, now I'm getting frustrated and mad at the other people. That leads me to isolate, to separate myself from the people. Begin rolling my eyes. And then finally, as I isolate and separate, then eventually what I do is become independent. And I just think I'm just going to do it on my own. Because I'm trapped in this mindset of, if you want it done right, you've got to do it yourself. So as a team builder, all the way back then, yes, you were given an opportunity to work as a team. But most of the time, in our immaturity, we don't know how to work as a team. I give people an opportunity, okay, you're going to be in charge of this part, you're going to be in charge of that part, and you're going to be in charge of this part. We're all going to come tomorrow with this stuff. As soon as somebody doesn't come with their stuff, we get mad at them. We don't have the maturity, we don't really have the mindset yet of how to gather people, how to get them excited about doing their job. All we do is just get mad at them. And then we begin to isolate and we become independent. And unfortunately, what happens is as we get older, that never changes. And now we're in the workforce. Now we're in a job where we are given a project from the boss, from the manager. We're supposed to do this project as a group, as a team. Or how about this? Maybe you have become a manager and now you're in charge of a whole bunch of different people. But again, in your mindset, you have this experience way back when where you knew that you couldn't trust other people. So you were afraid that if you delegate to anybody, they won't do it. And you get mad at them and you isolate and you begin to do things on your own. Just get out of the way, let me do it. Oh, again, that can just really make it difficult to be a good manager. So what we need to do is learn how to break this cycle right here. We have to break this cycle. If we don't, then we're in trouble because we will isolate and we will become independent. So I want to talk about some different ways. I mean, just think about yourself. We've got a couple boxes here. Think about yourself in those positions. When you had people on your team, and it could have been all the way back in school, it could be right now in the position where you are, that you're on a team and the people just aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. First question for you are, what are some of the feelings that come up? What are some of the emotions that come up when you think about these people? What are some of the emotions? Does this make sense? Fear? Does anger, frustration? Does some of those make sense? Write down some of those emotions. Next of all, the second question, there's another box there. When you view these people, when you think of these people, how do you picture them? What do they look like when you picture them? And I remember, if you're like me, I did this again, you guys. This isn't just something I read in a book. This is something I've lived. It's something I've had to grow out of. So what I did when I used to think about these people and how I felt about them, first of all, my feelings were anger, frustration. You know, you just want to go over and put your hands on them. Maybe a couple little felonies going on. But I just got so frustrated. And the way that I saw the people, I saw them as small. I saw them as incapable. I saw them as lazy. I saw them as inadequate. I saw them as losers. I saw them as less than they truly were. And that way of looking at them and that way of picturing them and thinking about them in my head did a real good job of helping me reconcile of the reason why I treated them a certain way. I would bark orders at them. I'd be sarcastic with them. Oh man, I wasn't a real caring leader. Early on, I was a rough leader because of the way that I saw people. So I want to share a few different ways of some of the ways that we begin to think about folks and how we want this thinking to evolve. Because once again, if you don't see them rightly, you won't be able to build a team with them. You won't be able to gather them unless you see them rightly. So here we go. First of all, one way to look at folks, and I've been in these, okay? I've been in each one of these. I'm a little embarrassed to say on these, but first of all, we can look at either our co-workers or the people that we are leading. We can look at them as slaves. That they really don't have an identity outside of their job. They really don't have a personality. They're really not there outside of the work that they are doing. And if I see them that way, then that will allow me, it'll be easier for me to reconcile being mean to them, treating them badly. I may not actually beat them up physically, but man, I can sure beat them up with my words verbally. You may know what I'm talking about. You may have had a boss before that you felt like treated you like a slave. They verbally whipped you on a daily basis and you didn't feel like you even existed. You might know what I'm talking about as well. You're a leader and you're going, okay, yeah, I bark and I get pretty mean with my people as I try to lead them. We want to be careful that we don't see them as slaves, because if you see them as slaves, you will lead them as slaves. So what we have here, once again, we're not leading people yet. We're just working with them, but I want to become a team builder. Most employees that are working side by side, cubicle by cubicle, all right, most of us feel like we're friends. Most of us are kind of in this friend mode. We're together. We're kind of under the same oppression. All right, and we can find that identity with one another. And it's okay for a friend, one employee, to gripe to another employee over lunch. No, it's not fair. They're doing too much of this. I can't believe. And we can talk about management and all that kind of stuff because we feel this camaraderie. We feel like we're comrades here. Or there's another way to go. You can be in competition. There's another way. You can either be comrades or you can be in competition with your other employees. But either way, as we move to the next level of a team builder, we have to begin to adjust the way that we think. It's not that we get rid of it. We just have to expand the way that we think. So here we are. We can either treat them like slaves, or number two, here's one. I did this for a long time. We can simply treat them like servants. No, Clay, these people, they have personality. They have identity. They're nice people. I know their names. But when it comes right down to it, they're still doing what I'm telling them to do because they're servants in the way that I'm looking at them. And again, I had a friend one time say, you know, Clay, back in the day, slaves were never allowed to go into the house. They had no position. They had no identity in the house. They stayed outside the house. However, servants could actually come into the home. They could come into the house and do their work. They couldn't stay in the house. They didn't belong in the house, but they were allowed to come in. So this is kind of the idea of a servant. They have a personality. They have a name. They definitely have a job, but they don't necessarily belong in the house. And I treat them that way if I'm not careful. And then next of all, how about here? We go to this level. Man, I remember doing this for a long time. Treating my employees or treating my athletes like soldiers. Now again, they've increased in value, okay? Soldiers have increased in value over a servant, but they are still here to follow my orders. Man, okay, once again, I'm kind of telling on myself here. When I first started teaching, the idea, I'd have students that would say, why do we have to do this? Why do I have to do this? And I'd say, sit down. I'd say, do this. Why should I do that? Because, you know, that's a great question for high schoolers to ask. Why? And my response to them was this: do it because I told you to do it. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever done that with someone? Do it because I told you to do it. You may do this with your kids. Do it because I told you. This is looking through the lens of a sergeant over a bunch of soldiers. Do it because it's an order that I've given you. Now again, it doesn't mean it's altogether wrong, but it's going to be really difficult to get these people to follow you because they want to follow you if all you do is bark orders at them. So where we want to attempt to get is this level where we see these co-employees, these people that we are working with, we see them as sons, or in other words, we see them like us. We see them with an identity. We see them with a destiny. We see them with an expanding capacity. We see the potential that's in them. Not just the limitations of where they are right now, but we see where they can go if they are only trained and developed and given an opportunity. Just the way we see ourselves. Just the way when we look at ourselves, we have these dreams, we have these hopes of where we want to go. When we begin to look at the others that we're working with as sons, like us, as opposed to just people that we give orders to, or just people that do what they are told to do, but they really don't have any position, or people that, unfortunately, we're able to bark at, we're able to lash out at, and be mean to. And somehow we can reconcile that. But we begin to look at them as sons because how you look at them, how you see them will be how you treat them. I promise you. So one of the things that we need to be considering as we are workers, we're doing a great job as a star employee, to begin to learn how to build teams. We need to begin to start looking at people that are around us rather than just friends, okay, which they can be, that's cool. But we want to start looking at them as sons. We want to start looking at them as team members. People that if we come together, we can get bigger things accomplished, as opposed to being over here, mad, isolated, and becoming independent. We begin to look at people this way, and this is going to be interesting. We'll talk about this in further sessions about, well, Clay, I can't do that with everybody because some people really are sucking consumers. You're right. It's going to be important that we know how to identify people that are actually contributing workers.